Asia turns to U.S. oil and gas amid Iran war. June 6, 2026. As conflict involving Iran disrupts Middle Eastern energy supplies, many Asian countries are strengthening ties with the United States for oil and liquefied natural gas, LNG. Energy officials argue that energy security and affordability must take precedence over overly ambitious climate goals, while still pursuing long-term decarbonization. Singapore, one of Asia's most energy-dependent economies, is a clear example of this shift. More than 90% of its electricity comes from imported natural gas, and around 10% of its gas supply previously came from Qatar, which has been offline since March. According to Phua Koh Keong, CEO of Singapore's Energy Market Authority, countries across Asia recognize that they cannot meet future energy needs alone and increasingly view the U.S. as a critical partner. Singapore recently led a delegation to Texas and Louisiana, visiting LNG export facilities and meeting major energy companies including ExxonMobil, Chevron, Shell, and Cheniere Energy. Keong described the U.S. energy sector's growth as remarkable, noting that America is now well positioned to support global energy demand. U.S. natural gas production is expected to nearly double between 2015 and 2032, while LNG export capacity is projected to quadruple from 2020 levels. Much of this growth is concentrated in Texas and Louisiana, which have become the center of America's LNG export industry. To improve resilience, Singapore established Singapore Gasco in 2025 to centralize natural gas procurement. The company has secured enough LNG supplies to maintain power generation through the end of the year even if disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz continue. Gasco executive Goh Tayak Boon argued that many countries failed to learn lessons from the energy shocks caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and have only recently begun focusing on strategic gas reserves. Boon criticized what he called excessive emphasis on environmental goals at the expense of reliability, stating that energy security is fuel agnostic. While supporting renewable energy development, he emphasized the importance of maintaining dependable fuel supplies. Singapore insists that its commitment to achieving net zero emissions by 2050 remains unchanged. However, officials say energy security and affordability are currently the highest priorities. The country is investing in geothermal energy, advanced nuclear technologies, and a new LNG regasification terminal that will increase import capacity by 50% by 2030. At the same time, it is encouraging domestic energy conservation. Singapore plans to increase LNG imports from the U.S. over the next decade because of abundant shale gas resources and major investments in export infrastructure. Nevertheless, it intends to maintain a diversified supply portfolio, including future imports from Qatar when production resumes. Officials stress that future disruptions could arise from conflicts, climate events, or other unforeseen circumstances, making diversification essential. The trend extends beyond Singapore. Japan's largest power producer, JERA, relies heavily on LNG and sees U.S. supplies as increasingly attractive due to their competitive costs and growing availability. JERA executives noted that technological improvements have kept U.S. gas prices relatively low despite rising demand. However, the Iran conflict has pushed global LNG spot prices higher, creating concerns that some countries may return to coal as a cheaper alternative. Thailand's development of new coal-fired power plants was cited as one example. Energy executives from Chevron, Cheniere, and Shell argued that governments and companies are increasingly embracing a pragmatic all-of-the-above energy strategy. Rather than relying solely on renewables, they advocate balancing fossil fuels, cleaner technologies, and energy diversification. Recent decisions by major companies such as BP and Shell to scale back some climate ambitions were presented as evidence of this shift. The overall message from both Asian policymakers and energy companies is that reliable, diversified energy supplies, particularly from the U.S., have become a strategic priority amid one of the most significant energy disruptions in recent Middle Eastern history. By Fortune story by Jordan Blum, June 5, 2026.